All right, team equality. Team equality. The team is comprised of leaders from Algeria, Bahrain, Cameroon, Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, Palestine, Peru, and Portugal. The action plan presentation will be on cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. Take it away, team equality.
Hi, my name is Denham Fisher. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is in the USA.
Hi everyone, my name is Soleil. I use she, her pronouns, and I am from Fall River, Massachusetts in the United States.
Hi everyone, I'm Rose Trebek Diaz. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from Croton-on-Hudson, New York in the US.
Hi everybody, I'm Annie. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania in the United States, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name is Pat Breen. I'm from right outside Boston, Massachusetts, and I use they, them pronouns. So we are cohort 4, Team Equality, and one roadblock for achieving equality is cultural appropriation. So our action plan is called Appreciate, Don't Appropriate, and our goal is to raise awareness about the differences between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, and to provide our audience with information and tips on how to appreciate and not appropriate other cultures. So first, we're going to explain what these terms mean. So, cultural appropriation is when a dominant culture mimics or adopts elements of a minority culture without accepting or including the people of that culture, and often for their own personal gain, such as fashion statement or just for aesthetic value. It results in minorities not receiving credit for their own cultures, which just causes continued oppression and negative stereotypes for those already oppressed cultures. So, cultural appropriation might look like wearing culturally significant clothing as a costume or as a fashion statement, using aspects from a culture to mock or put down that culture, and wearing culturally significant hairstyles simply for aesthetic value. Now, what is cultural appreciation? So cultural appreciation is actually the opposite of cultural appropriation. It takes place when someone seeks to understand and learn about another culture out of admiration and respect. So cultural appreciation might look like dressing appropriately when attending a celebration of a different culture, educating yourself on other cultures and the significance of different aspects of them, and purchasing culturally significant items from people who are part of those cultures. So a few benefits of cultural appreciation are that it spreads information about different beliefs, history, and ways of life, and it leads to a better understanding of and appreciation for perspectives and traditions that are different from yours.
Hi, so I'm going to be talking about why is cultural appropriation an important issue. So cultural appropriation affects many cultures, but one specific culture that we wanted to highlight is Black culture. Black people have been constantly oppressed, outshined, and underrepresented worldwide, but especially in the United States. It is extremely unfair for white people to mimic Black culture and then be praised for it when Black people have been constantly discriminated against for those same qualities. So, some examples that I listed below were hairstyles, blackface, and spray tans. So, on the left-hand side, there's a picture of the actress Judy Garland. She was famous for starring in the original The Wizard of Oz, yes. And she, on the left-hand side, is how she looks in her authentic form. And on the right-hand side is how she looks when she did blackface. So at the time, she was under the age of 18, and her organization, her acting organization that she was with at the time pressured her into doing it. And she didn't want to do it, but she still did it anyway. And blackface originated in the 19th century, and people would use grease paint and just all sorts of stuff to paint their skin black, when in reality, that wasn't the case. So that's an issue because Black people have been persecuted and turned away from jobs because of our skin complexion. Yet she was able to freely paint her skin and make a joke of something that we take very serious. So in the picture beside of Judy Garland, there is Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian is a social media star and she's an entrepreneur. Here she's wearing braids, and she actually when she wore these braids in 2018, she captioned her Instagram post as Bo Derek braids. And Bo Derek is a white model that was born in the 1950s. So the issue with that is Stevie Wonder was the original person to wear these braids. However, she didn't give homage to him. So that's what makes it cultural appropriation, because she wore something that she didn't even know had a significant connotation to another culture, yet she didn't highlight that one specific culture's beauty and authenticity. So in the third picture, there is another white woman, and she has like spray tan. So the issue with spray tans are a modernized version of blackface, in my opinion. You can go to clinics and buy the skin, but in reality, it represents the idea of being Black without a burden, because you're going out of your way to have the same skin as us, yet you don't know what it feels like to deal with our issues. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about.
So, our next segment, something we need to carefully consider as we really delve into this very present and ongoing issue, is the issue at its larger scale from all communities, cultures, religions, and orientation. So, from East Asian architecture to westernized complexion standards, cultural appropriation is a concern globally. Especially within our campaign, it was essential to engage and educate others on the ongoing branches of cultural appropriation around the globe and not just within the US or certain groups. So we acknowledge that this would especially broaden our approach to our campaign and increase our audience interaction. So we heavily emphasize the experience and being able to tell your own stories, as personal stories and being able to speak your truth is most important for awareness of these issues. As a Latina American, and especially being part of such a diverse cohort, we made sure that this was a definite priority. And even though we will not be discussing every single aspect of cultural appropriation, it is equally as significant to recognize and acknowledge its effect on these communities as we go through our action plan.
All right, so now that we have gone over the definitions of cultural appropriation and appreciation and really delved into the prevalence and significance of this topic, we will now shift gears to introducing our solution and action plan. All right, so here is a rough outline of our action plan. We aim to target mainly white-dominated nations such as America, Canada, and European countries. And we hope to have our timeline be year-round to really highlight certain events or holidays where we tend to see cultural appropriation the most, such as wearing an offensive costume on Halloween or wearing something to prom that holds significance to another culture without honoring the people of that culture. Next is our issue statement, which is that there is a difference between cultural appropriation and appreciation, and you may be contributing to the problem without even realizing, which leads me to our end goal, which is for everyone to be better educated on this topic and know what they can do to help, because ultimately appropriation is rooted in ignorance. And if we can educate and reach more people to bring awareness to this topic, we can help dismantle appropriation little by little. And lastly is how we plan to spread awareness. We are doing this through a variety of social media platforms, namely Instagram, Card, and our website. And here are some examples of the education and awareness that we hope to implement through our action plan. One is to encourage people to buy items of significance directly from the people of the culture that treats it with significance. For example, instead of buying something of significance to Indigenous people from a big grocery store or a chain, buy it directly from Indigenous people themselves. You must support the people in order to support their culture. Next is to educate about the origins of certain clothing, hairstyles, etc. Next is to encourage schools to ban offensive costumes and mascots. For example, Dartmouth College used to have the mascot of an Indian, which is incredibly offensive because it essentially deduces an entire group of people to animals, which is not only cultural appropriation, but also just downright racism. And lastly, is to stop penalizing minorities for expressing their cultures. For example, to not punish Muslim women for wearing a hijab when they are just expressing their beliefs and religion.
Okay, so now we're going to talk more about our outreach platform. So we talked about creating an Instagram, a website, and a card. So on our Instagram, we have around 50 followers. It's called Appreciate, Don't Appropriate, and I'm actually going to share our Instagram account right now. Hopefully you all can see that. So this is what we've created so far. So basically with our Instagram, we hope to target more like the teen demographic because teens and youth are more on social media platforms like Instagram. So I'm just going to show one post that received a lot of like positive feedback, and that was a post kind of explaining cultural appropriation, cultural appreciation, and more importantly, the difference between the two. So talking about definitions, examples of each. Not only that, but also guidelines for people to follow when they want to appreciate a culture over appropriating it. So with Instagram, we've been able to reach a wide variety of people from all different like ethnicities, demographics. So Instagram has definitely been a very important tool in sharing our message. So going back to our presentation, we also have created a card. So a card is kind of like another form of a website. So hopefully you all can see that. Let me know if you can't. But with our card, we have been able to compile a bunch of different links together. So here is our Learn More section where we just kind of shared some links for our audience to learn more about cultural appreciation, cultural appropriation, the harm of cultural appropriation, and then just common questions people might have. But we decided to go beyond that and also give like resources for people to help in this issue, because not only do we want to like inform people, but we also want to translate that information into action. So like how to recognize cultural appropriation, and more specifically, and I feel like we talked about this in the other slide, but like supporting like minority businesses that are usually like exploited for their culture. So Indigenous people, BIPOC owned businesses, Black owned businesses. And also we have a couple of resources from us, Team Equality. So our Instagram where people can learn more, our website, which I'll go to in a minute, and then 2 Google forms for our audience to fill out, talking about their own thoughts on cultural appropriation and their own stories on cultural appropriation, which is still ongoing. So now we're actually going to go over to our website. Here it is. So here we talk about the definitions between the two, cultural appreciation, cultural appropriation, solutions, how to culturally appreciate instead of culturally appropriate. Also solutions on how we can help, and this is what we kind of touched upon in our previous slide with our action plan. Stories and quotes is still an ongoing thing. We are currently still compiling all the Google form, submissions to share other people's stories. And then here are the Google Forms, which we are compiling that information from. So our website is more like targeted for like more older audiences, because these people tend to like actually physically go on the websites and, click on the links. So with our website, we've been able to reach a wide variety of demographics. So it's important to understand that like, though we have kind of touched on the like internet realm, it's also like we also want to stress like talking to people in person, like physically, like talking about these issues, like going face to face with someone of a minority culture, learning more about their culture and how we can appreciate it instead of appropriate it. So.
Yes, and you may be wondering what are our next steps in our action plan. So currently our next steps are to continue posting on our Instagram to educate our audience. So we would like to create accounts on other social media platforms as well and meet our goal of 230 followers, and really just continue to adding our website and updating it with information. So some of the upcoming social media posts that we intend to publicize are one, cultural assimilation. So recognizing that cultural appropriation is what occurs when a culture is trendy, and cultural assimilation is what occurs when a culture is not trendy. So we would like to focus specifically on the hijab ban in France, which is a very current issue that a lot of people are active on social media. We are also currently working on pictures of culturally significant items from our followers. So we are currently collecting photos of those items from our all followers. So then we post these pictures and descriptions on our Instagram to encourage cultural appreciation and to actively include our followers in the solution. And finally, we also want to post personal experiences concerning cultural appropriation and appreciation from the members of our team, and one submitted by our followers, as Annie mentioned before, through our Google Forms or either through our Instagram based on our age demographic. So lastly, we want to also have tips on getting involved and starting conversations about cultural appropriation and appreciation in your community, especially ways to help within schools such as clubs and the more broader perspective as we mentioned previously.
So we're now going to open up to questions. Thank you so much for listening to our action plan.
Okay, that's where I come in. Great job, guys. Awesome. That is just awesome. Let's hear it for Team Equality. All right. All right. My apologies. I believe I did not mention that we would have presenters and team members from the United States of America. So I am now mentioning that now. Team, you did a great job. And let me turn it over to our judges. And let me start with Sandra McCroom.
Yeah, so I'm blown away. I do have a question, which is, how did you come up with the topic? And it is, this topic is really, really near and dear to my heart. And yeah, I guess, yeah, how'd you come up with this as a topic?
Okay, so hi. I
Hi,
forgot your name. I'm sorry.
That's
What
okay.
is it?
Sandra.
Okay, Miss Sandra. Okay, so I originally came up with the idea for my group. We were like brainstorming some things, having weekly discussions. At first we were going to do like climate change, but I was like, guys, I really want to talk about cultural appropriation because I know that it's an issue everywhere with, some people wearing specific wardrobe pieces that are not belonging to them, but it's really a big issue when it goes into skin color and hair, because that's something that belongs to one person and causes them to be, individual in themselves. So we just came up with the idea and we were like, everybody was like, oh yeah, denim, that would be a great idea. And I was like, thank you so much, because I really wanted to highlight those issues, especially because right now in the US, we're going through so much in the Black community. So I really wanted to, finally put some shine on something that meant something, true to my heart. And yeah, that's basically what happened.
Well, Miss Denham, and to the rest of your team, really, really hats off. This is such a nuanced and impactful conversation to be having. And I think it strikes at the heart of a lot of what is happening around the world. I did not know about the hijab, ban in France, which is fascinating and tragic. And I would, and the website work that you are doing, at least defining for a lot of people who have no idea what's happening. But I live this issue every day. I think you touched on assimilation, which I can speak for Black folks. We have to assimilate every day just to live in the world.
Exactly.
Just to overcome, what is, to be able to get jobs. I think about a young man, Andrew Johnson, who at a wrestling match was literally, his dreads were cut off his head during the wrestling match. And it is, I'm almost speechless because I think this is such a powerful conversation to have. And it is a burden that most POC people carry with them, in the sense of always needing to have to justify or educate people on their own cultures or why they wear certain things. Or around the country, there the Crown Act, which is legislation that's being looked at across the country around being able to allow people to wear their hair in the workplace the way that they want. And this is such a nuanced and important topic. Hats off to all of you for doing your homework on this and bringing, like you said, shining a light on it. Yeah, I'm taken aback. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, Kathy Edelstein.
Okay, so this was also something we talked about a couple weeks ago in my intercultural communication class, and we had a really hefty discussion about this. So one thing is code switching. The fact that so many people need to code switch and learn to do this in order to get through life, that they have to act one way in one place and another in order to be accepted. So acculturation, assimilation, acculturation, getting used to that. And the idea that international students often have to, this came up from a lot of my international students in my class, that they are left to acculturate by themselves. There might be some affinity groups for them, but at the same time, individually, it's lonely often, and they have to learn to get through by themselves. I thought this was an excellent topic. I mean, the idea that young kids are looking at Disney, for example, and the Disney characters from different movies, and it is the beginning of, I believe, appropriation in many cases, where kids unaware are dressing as, a genie or as a princess from a different place in every way. And they're young and they may not know, but their parents know. And so as they grow up, how does this blend into their lives? I think that's something to think about. I thought this was a great topic. Thank you so much for presenting it in such a wonderful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Kamar.
First of all, I would like to thanks and congratulate to the entire team. They bring very sensitive issue with a very relevant detailed analysis to the well-done job for their presentation.
Thank you, Kamar. Chairman Zakum.
Yes, thank you. I want to say this is another great presentation, and clearly, the passion from this group shines through on how critical you feel this issue is in educating folks, across the world, not only on what's actually happening, like the hijab ban in France, but also what cultural appropriation is and what appreciation is, what's appropriate and what's not. I think is really critical as people want to, I think, do more of the appreciation versus appropriation. And I think targeting the training in that way is really helpful and a somewhat of a really thoughtful way, I think, to look at this challenge. So thank you again for this, and for really, I think, the entire group's passion and interest in the topic really shone through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Payne.
Yes, I have to say I was struck by the level of passion, Denham, that you and your group put together. On one hand, it's communication. It's understanding cultural competency, but it's also you coming up and saying understanding cultural competency also includes some of that culture is not right. It's offensive, and you need to be aware of that. So yes, I can appreciate your views on this, and some views, of course, we will differ. But if it's offensive and it causes pain to other people, it's important to point that out. And I think oftentimes we have not done that. I mean, part of what we try to do at Emerson, as Kathy has said, whether it's actually going to places like Saudi Arabia, we were the first group to take a group of students to Saudi Arabia where we got into all of this, women's issues in Saudi Arabia, what they could wear, what they couldn't wear, colors they could wear. I think that all of this is not so much, I think it's problematic because most of it is ignorance, as Sandra has said. People sometimes do not understand that is offensive. So continue to educate all of us and point these things out, I think, especially in your classes, because many of you are much more attuned to what is offensive and what is problematic. And each and every day, we all learn that the true educational experience today is a dialectical encounter. You teach us as much as we teach you. So continue on, continue to shine that light on that.
Thank you, Professor. And Mark Brody. You're muted.
There we go. Wrong button. Well done, people. I think you've just provided a public service. I believe in my heart that people want to do the right thing, but often they don't know what that is. So by helping to define and explain appreciation versus appropriation, you help people understand how they can be better, and equally important, how not to insult their fellow person. I'm impressed with the fact that you addressed an issue, you provided context so that people can understand. You provided solutions along with actions, and you addressed what you do with your audience. You presented the issue. You presented an end goal in terms of how you're going to educate people, and then you have a plan in terms of your outreach. And the outreach, I have to say, I liked your Instagram campaign. I was impressed with your card. I need to look into that as a communications professional. I thought it was novel what you did. And to me, that really provided the thought of, this is the public service. That card that you set up really it's a toolbox, much like we have with Team Harmony, but it's topic specific. So it really does help people understand the issue. So, it was a very complete campaign. You're addressing issues that need to be discussed. And for that, I'm thankful, because you just taught me something where I was unclear, and now I have a little more clarity. So again, sincere thank you for that.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Great jobs, guys. Team Equality, let's hear it for you guys. Great job. And I agree. I'm going to do a little research on that card. That's a great idea. And I'm in the strategic communications world. So thank you for that.